Now we're going to get ready to translate paragraph 2 of our story. And if you're following along in your book, we are now at the top of page 96. Cincinnatus est vir fortis et militiae peritus. So Cincinnatus is a brave man and experienced in war. Sed pauper, parvum agrum ipse colit trans Tiberim. But he is poor. So here we just have our adjective, but you can add a verb to be. So then we have, we can say is. So in this next section of our sentence, we're going to see a new pronoun we haven't seen before. Parvum agrum ipse colit trans Tiberim. He himself farms a small field across the Tiber. So the Tiber is the main river that runs through Rome. Let's start grouping words together that go together. So these are both our accusative direct objects. Our new word here, let's highlight this in red, is ipse. So this is going to be what we call an intensive pronoun. So intensive pronouns just really emphasize intensive, there we go. Emphasize what you're talking about. Similar to Eli, this could be a pronoun or an adjective. So ipse, ipsa, ipsum. And it's genitive and it's dative. We're going to follow that standard pronoun pattern. I-us in the genitive, I in the dative. And then we go back to our regular endings for first and second declension adjectives. And we're going to translate this himself, herself. This can be a little bit confusing because in English we also use that self ending to translate a relative. The difference here is that this emphasizes the subject. It doesn't refer back to it. So I see myself, reflexive. I myself go to the store. I'm just emphasizing that I'm the one who's doing the action. So he himself farms a small field. So this ipse here is important to our story because we're learning that Cincinnatus is just this really humble, hardworking Roman. So instead of maybe a wealthier Roman might say, I'm going to have other people farm my fields for me so that I can be off, philosophizing or acting as a lawyer in the forum. Cincinnatus himself farms the field. So it's emphasizing that he's the one doing the action. It's going to be masculine, singular, nominative. Illo tempore Roma urbs parva est. At that time, Rome is a small city. So let's think about illo. Is illo here going to be a pronoun or an adjective? You can go ahead and put your answer in the question box. Okay, if you said adjective, you are correct. Now, in the question box, tell me what Latin word illo is modifying. What word does it go with? All right, if you said, we want our highlighter here. If you said tempore, you are correct. So illo is going to be a ablative singular, and it is going to go with tempore at that time. Bella multis cum hastibus semper gerit. So one thing I want us to do in this section of our sentence, we have this cum, right? But multis and hastibus are going to go together. So sometimes your preposition will be in between a noun and an adjective. So let's just make sure we know that these are all part of the same thing. And then we also want to remember from our vocab that you can use a form of gero with a form of bellum to mean wage war. So at that time, Rome is Rome is a small city. She always wages wars with cum multis hostibus, with many enemies. Quandam hostes exercitum in fines Romanas ducunt, et castra ponunt haud procul monibus urbis. Once the enemies lead the army into Roman territory. So we've got a lot of accusatives in this section, so we can put together in fines Romanas, right? Accusative because you're going into, and then this is going to be our accusative direct object, and then our hostes are our subject. And they place their camps not far from, so if we're not far from something, we're going to need what case? Take a guess, and you can put it into the box. You're correct. You're not far from something in the ablative, from the walls of the city. So this is going to be a genitive. This will be your ablative. Consul Romanus vir imperitus et timidus legiones educit hostesque repellere temptat. So the Roman consul, a man who is inexperienced and timid, so these all go together, these go together, he leads out, educit, so you know that ducere means to lead, and et as a prefix means out of. He leads out the legions, and he is trying to drive back the enemies. So we can mark off, right, this whole section we're going to translate together. This is going to be your accusative. So one of the things that I like about marking things in different colors or underlining and putting brackets around things is that it helps you to start to pick up when you look at sentences what words you should translate together, and then you can have smaller chunks to work with and isolate the things that you still aren't sure what to do with in your sentence. Castra ponit in colle prope hostes, sed timet eos appugnare. So he places camps in the hill, so we can mark these off, an ablative in the hill, near the enemies, but he is afraid to attack them. Alright, so let's take a look at eos. So, first question, is eos a pronoun or an adjective? Alright, you're correct that it's a pronoun. It's not modifying anything else. So, what is it taking the place of? But he is afraid to attack them. Alright, if you answered the hostes, you are correct. So who is he afraid to attack? The enemies. Again, if you have a kind of good understanding of the general context of your passage, then you can figure out who the pronoun is referring to, or you can also use your endings. So hostes are masculine and plural. And then the case just comes from where the pronoun needs to go grammatically in its own sentence. So here it's the accusative, and enemies also happens to be accusative. But the gender and the number, more importantly, will be your clues. Illi castra Romana celeriter circumveniat et exercitum obsedent. So let's pause first and ask, ille, is this a pronoun or an adjective? Alright, if you said pronoun, you are correct. And then your next question, do you remember what ille, or any form in the nominative of ille, illa, illud, means when it's the subject of our sentence? Yes, it shows that we've switched subjects. So here, our previous subject was the Roman consul, right? He's afraid to attack the enemy. Now, with this nominative masculine plural pronoun, illi is referring to whom? Yep, it is the enemies. So, we've switched subjects from the consul to the enemies. The enemies, celeriter, quickly, circumvenient, surround, right? And you should know that word because you know that venire means to come, and circum, like a circle, means around. So they quickly surround the Roman camps. We'll mark these together. And they besiege the army.